Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? This is your man, Big B, Brien Hanley, along with Tim Fitzgerald. Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders. Got a particularly, intriguing story that we're going to talk to you guys about today. I appreciate everybody being in here. ESPN basically has just admitted that, you know what, we want the big brands. And now it's like they're coming out against the SEC. I'm like, what is going on at ESPN? They can't figure it out. But basically, they have admitted exactly what they wanted, what we all knew all along. And we'll see how the SEC reacts to what our man Kirk Herbstreit has had to say, because I think he just vomited all over everything that he's been pushing against. We're going to break all that down. So, but before we do, remember, everyone, like, follow, subscribe, continue to hit that notification bell, and just so you know exactly when Big 12 Insiders content comes out. So, and definitely dive into those comments. We appreciate all of your support and your interaction. So, Fitz, Kirk Herbstreit, been a pillar on College Game Day and an ESPN for almost 30 years. I remember him coming to Manhattan back in 1998 as part of the Game Day crew. And he is a company man. And look, I don't want anybody to think there's anything wrong with being a company man, because there isn't. Having said all of that, he's kind of putting his foot in his mouth here. And for context, people, Herbstreit came out on a podcast and basically said if ESPN wanted just ratings, this is the exact Final Four that they would want. Ohio State, Notre Dame, and all of that stuff coming out. And then we don't want the little bitty Southern schools. Oh, really? Really? How do you think, Fitz, that these little bitty Southern schools are going to react to what Kirk Herbstreit just said?
I am dumbfounded by what he's doing. It's like he's digging a hole and he decides, oh, I've dug a hole, I better fill it in, but he's still in the hole. I mean, it's like, what are you doing, man? So he basically admitted with these comments that, hey, I'll say whatever my bosses want me to say. I'm just a company dude that is out here spewing my thoughts that happen to be exactly like their thoughts. And I think we're all savvy enough to know that's been going on for many years in the news industry. But part of the reason we love sports is we could count on our sports analysts to tell us what they think, or at least a guy like Whitlock would go say stuff purely for reaction. But we knew his motives. Now he's clearly, in Kirk Herbstreit, being told what to say, how to do this, or he's so bought in, he can only see college football now through the lenses of what ESPN would want or what benefits them the most. First step, SEC. We got the SEC contract. Everything needs to be SEC. SEC is the best, blah, blah, blah. Second step, okay, SEC isn't the best. Okay, we just want the big brands because it's all about ratings. That's not how your normal college football fan feels. Not at all.
No. The thing about it is, and it's weird to take that side and what he said, these big brands, because here's the thing that I know growing up, where I grew up, in the area that I grew up. Look, Indiana isn't a big football brand.
No.
Not even remotely close to a big football brand. They've been awful for decades. But they are in basketball, even though they haven't been good in decades. But you're never going to convince me. First of all, Indiana is a gigantic university, and they have an enormous fan base. So Kirk Herbstreit basically spent the better part of 2 weeks telling us that Indiana didn't belong. And then all of a sudden to flip that and say, well, we want the big brands. Because I can tell you this, if Indiana were to have won a couple of football games and they were in this Final Four, you're not going to tell me that Indiana, I'm not saying they're going to have the same ratings as Ohio State. I'm not saying that. People would have watched because, first of all, it's college football and people love college football. But people are going to watch, man. It's just, I don't know what he's getting at. Well, I'll take that back. I know where he's getting at. But make up your mind. Just be original. We would respect that opinion more than you flip-flopping, going back and forth, and just or just be honest and say, hey, you know what? We're ESPN. We just want the ratings.
I know.
We care about. If you just came out and just said that, people wouldn't like it, but we would respect it.
Right.
But now it's like Fitz, he's turning it on its head. We don't want these small little Southern schools. No, like Clemson. We don't want these small little Southern schools. Really? So Alabama is who you're talking about. Auburn is who you're talking about. You don't think that the ratings would be gigantic if Alabama or Auburn or Georgia, if these schools weren't in the Final Four? Are you kidding me? I don't understand why he's doing this. I really don't. I thought I knew. I just don't get it, Fitz. Like, what's the purpose?
Yeah. Let's just ask this. If Arizona State had beaten Texas and Arizona State and Ohio State were about to play, yeah, there'd probably be smaller ratings, but only fractionally because so many people are going to watch that game no matter what.
Correct.
I'm going to watch both games, and I don't give two craps about any of the teams in there. Yeah, maybe Ohio State because Kansas State's former quarterback's there, but I don't like Ohio State. I don't like Texas. I'm really not a big Penn State fan. I dealt with James Franklin when he was here. Great coach, the great coach. And Notre Dame, come on, man. They lost to Northern Illinois. What are we doing? So, look, but I'm going to watch those games. I'm going to watch those games if all the upsets had taken place. And I don't even know what to say at this point. That, look, I know Texas will bring a lot of viewers, but it's a college football playoff semifinals. There's going to be a lot of viewers. And if a couple ratings points is influencing who gets in and who you want in, we're in a bad place. We don't do that with the NCAA tournament.
No.
Well, we get a Cinderella, and granted, basketball has 350 plus teams eligible for the tournament. Football has like 125 for whatever it is for football. So they're different environments. But when a George Mason makes the Final Four, people perk up. Do you hear CBS going, there goes our ratings? No, because they've built that into the story of the tournament. And I think people would have grabbed a hold of Arizona State if they had beaten Texas as the so-called Cinderella, because of exactly the perception that Kirk Herbstreit just put out there. This is only of real value if the biggest brands are in it. That's all we care about is the brands. Everyone else is just cannon fodder. Quite literally. You just fill up the schedules in time. This is what we want. Dude, you're going to kill college football with that. I know that's the way it's always been. But when you become so aggressively out about it, like, look, we don't really care about anyone else. We don't care about even the programs like Clemson that have had success, or, maybe a BYU that's had some success in a big field. We don't care about that. We just want brands. We just want the easiest ratings possible. It's sad what he's done to himself and what ESPN has contorted him into.
Yeah, that's the part that's really weird, is because a program like Clemson, who not too long ago in the last 10 years has won 2 national championships, and all of a sudden they're not good enough to be on ESPN in the Final Four. No, we don't want them. They're just a tiny little Southern school that nobody cares about, nobody wants to watch. It's weird that is the story that ESPN is now putting out there. And I'm not going to say that, it's only Kirk Herbstreit saying it. Nah, he speaks for them. He absolutely speaks for them. We can't say that he doesn't speak for them. But to me, I just think it's laughable. I think it's laughable how they have turned so quickly, that trying to twist this narrative, because that's all anybody was talking about, because it was true. Yep. All they care about is the SEC. Everybody's mad that they didn't put these SEC teams in there. He was talking about it. Indiana didn't belong. It needed to be Alabama in there, or Ole Miss, or South Carolina. We needed those teams in there. And all of a sudden, Now the narrative has turned. Oh, those small little Southern schools, nobody wants to watch them. This is who we wanted all along. This is what ESPN, that's who they would be dying for. And I'm like, oh, really? That's what we're doing these days. I don't know. To me, again, I just think that where they're trying to take college football, if they would just embrace kind of what you mentioned, if they embraced everybody, then everybody would be excited about it. But when you constantly pump out the narrative that only these teams matter, no matter what, well, people are going to believe that. It's just like anything in America. You constantly tell people something, whether it's true or not. If you constantly say it, people are going to believe it. And if it's constantly, that's all you talk about, that's all you throw in their face, again, whether it's true or not, people are going to eventually start believing that and take that as law when actually on the field, because that's what they told us about Arizona State. That's what they told us about the Big 12 this year. Big 12, not good. Big 12, Utah, Oklahoma State, Kansas State. We think they're the best teams in the conference. They end up not being. Oklahoma State and Utah stink. Arizona State and BYU, who we think should have stunk, actually are the best teams in the conference. Whole conference must stink. Oh, they play against Texas, who's in the SEC. Now, granted, they had an easier schedule than basically anybody in the SEC, but they're in the SEC championship game. They've only lost 2 games. The mighty Texas. Arizona State's a bad call away from possibly winning that football game. Oh, well, maybe we ought to change this narrative now, Fitz, because that narrative that we were pushing, that doesn't apply because Arizona State actually can compete. And you mentioned it. If they would have won that game, oh, yeah, nobody's going to watch Ohio State versus Arizona State in the semifinals of college football. So nobody's going to watch that game. Give me a break. Of course people are going to watch that game. And for him to actually just to come out and basically just, I don't know, emasculate himself over this nonsense, to me is troubling, because I think Kirk Herbstreit, I really do. I think he is great on College Game Day.
Great.
I think Kirk is outstanding when he calls college football games. I don't think he's great with pro football, and maybe that's just because I'm not used to him doing it so much. But when he calls college football games, I think he's outstanding. But for him to do this, and now all of a sudden, well, I'm a big man at ESPN. I don't care. They can't get rid of me. I'll just say whatever I want, whenever I want. Now he's backed himself into a corner, and he looks ridiculous.
He's the dude that got caught by the wife going to strippers. And now he's sending her flowers and candy and doing the dishes. And in a couple weeks, when all this calms down, he's going to be right back there on the front row with his $1 bills. He's just saying whatever he needs to say to get out of the doghouse. And somehow he made the doghouse worse. Let's be really honest here. I think as we get further down the road, hearing this shifting narrative, and nobody nationally is still talking about it, BYU belonged in the playoff. There's no doubt. They throttled Colorado, which is a media darling, and also a Big 12 institution that doesn't seem to fall in the same category. I can guarantee if Colorado was in the semifinals, they'd get massive ratings.
Absolutely.
Massive. Everyone would tune in on that one. But BYU didn't get in. Nobody's talking about it. They're still talking about why Indiana didn't belong. Okay, so who did belong? We've moved on from the SEC. That's been proven on the field. I don't know. He's just flailing away, making it worse. And I got a couple theories on it, Big B. I think he's stretched too thin. I really do.
Might be.
He's doing NFL now. He's the whole thing with, I'm going to do the show here and fly across the country with my dog to do a game at night. There's no way you're fresh. I don't care if it is a charter. I don't care. That schedule is, I don't know how he does it. I really don't. Let alone the prep work. People don't understand the level of prep work required to be really good at your job like he does. He obviously does it. for the actual game, or has done it. I haven't watched a lot of him this season because he's been doing so much SEC. But I just think he's got too many irons in the fire, and I think he's in an emotionally bad place. I know I would be if my dog died in the middle of a football season, but he's also an entitled guy that gets to say whatever he wants, and he's so big at ESPN, he could say whatever he wants.
Correct.
But he can't help but do what he's doing. I was going to use a really dirty metaphor to go with the stripper thing, but I decided not to. He's just sucking up to the bosses for whatever reason. And maybe because they're pissed about him doing so many other things. I don't know. I don't know what the theory is here, but there's something going on. This is not who he was 3 years ago. And I'm going to be blunt. If I started traveling with my dog everywhere, it's not simply because I love the dog, which I'd love to travel with my dogs. But if I started doing that, if I started asking for a special permission, it's because I need him there. I need the support. I need what the dog brings to me as much as anything. I think there's something going on with Kirk.
I mean, there could be that. That's another avenue to take.
Keep this in mind. He's an Ohio State guy, and his son went to Michigan, and there's been some backlash. So I think he's on the outs with his own alma mater in some ways.
Well, yeah, he's been that way for a little bit, though, Fitz, because if you remember, he had to move out of Cincinnati. He had to move away from Ohio and move to Nashville because he wasn't constantly falling all over himself talking about Ohio State. And basically, he was just being honest.
Right.
And the amount of just, I'm just the threats that he was receiving, he was like, okay, I got to get my family the hell out of here.
Yep.
And he moved. Which I agree with, man. There's no reason for that. But yeah, his son went to Michigan, but there's been people all over the place where their son doesn't go to the school that they went to. And he talked about it, the outside the fringe Ohio State fans, and every fan base has those crazed fringe fans. Heck, I think I'm one of them for University of Louisville. I think I'm one of those crazed fringe fans. I can admit it. But, I don't know. That's a good thought, or an interesting thought, I should say, about Kirk, as far as what maybe there's something going on. I don't know. I just know this. He's huge at ESPN.
Huge.
He can say whatever he wants to say. He's been in that. He's gone on podcast and basically just said, I don't care. I'm going to say whatever I want. I think, first of all, I think that is great. I think that is authentic. And I think everybody should say whatever they want to and be okay with it. I know you can't based on where you work, but I believe everybody should be able to say whatever you want to say. Now, there are consequences that go along with that. Don't get me wrong. Good or bad, whatever it happens to be. But I just think Kirk's gone the other way. He really kicked himself, as you say, or put himself in this hole when he started talking about teams that didn't belong in the college football playoff. First of all, he didn't need to do that. He's in a position where he doesn't have to do that. He can just talk about the teams that are in there. Why go off on a tangent talking about who should or shouldn't be in? To me, it just doesn't make any sense on why he did that, on why he would say that. And it alienated people. It made him mad. I'm like, why do you even need to go that route? Don't go that route. Just, talk about who's in, celebrate everybody who's in. And, hey, you know what? Maybe we can make some tweaks in the future on what needs to and what doesn't need to happen. Maybe we can do that. But that's not what happened. And now he's gone down this rabbit hole, and he will not get out of the rabbit hole at all. And it's ugly.
Nope. Speaking of dogs, dude is just in the studio staring at me. Were you talking about me? I honestly, I don't get it. And maybe another layer of this is he's looking around at ESPN thinking, they have fired some really talented people for going against the chosen narrative at the employer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm young enough. I got kids. I'm not doing that. I'm going to do whatever they want me to say. I'll say it. And okay. Look, everyone has to choose how to live their life. I couldn't do that. I won't pick up a narrative for anyone that I don't believe in.
Right.
I'll shut up with the narratives maybe that I believe in if it's bad for business. But you know what? I'm kind of known for not giving a crap. So it's hard for me to watch someone do this that clearly is just sucking up to the boss. It's kind of pathetic. It really is.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. It's beneath him is what we should. It is beneath Kirk Herbstreit, because as bad as what he's doing right now, Kirk is better than this. He doesn't have to do any of this.
Nope.
And here's another flip side to this. Maybe that's how he really feels. Maybe he actually does believe that all of this stuff. And again, I'm not mad at him if that's how he really feels.
I'd feel better about it if it was.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I just think it's misguided. But if that's how he really, truly feels, okay, that's a way to go. But it makes him look foolish with the flip-flopping. And now bashing this small, literally, the comment, these small little Southern schools. So Georgia, Alabama, Auburn, Ole Miss.
Florida.
Imagine a small little Southern school, huh?
Poor little Tennessee. Poor little Tennessee.
Yes.
Small school.
I don't get it. I just don't get it. I mean, but man, the turnaround and the word vomiting is just over the last 10 days or 2 weeks, whatever you want to call it, is incredible. I think it's hilarious. I thought it was something that we should get on here and talk about today, because I just could not believe what I watched him say it. And I thought, man, this guy, they either, like I said, either he really believes this and it's totally misguided, or they have gotten to him and said, hey man, you gotta flip-flop this. You gotta backtrack on this thing. And now you're attacking your other partners that you had put on this pedestal for so long. That's the hilarious part.
I'm so confused.
He's on a pedestal and he just attacked them.
I know. I know. If anyone could get away at ESPN for speaking his mind, it's him.
Yeah.
And the reason I think he's probably just saying what he's told is, he just seems like that kind of guy. He's a go along to get along type in my book. When I see him. But let's keep this in mind. Kirk Herbstreit is powerful enough to do what he wants to do, say what he wants to say, because him and Chris Fowler have become a voice of a generation.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of young people that have grown up with those two guys the same way I grew up with Cosell on Monday Night Football and Gifford and Meredith. Those are just ingrained in me, and that's what the standing they have.
Right.
That they're a cultural phenomenon. They're on the damn video game.
Yeah.
Yeah, ESPN can't afford to lose him. So if he thinks he's going to get fired or get reprimanded, it's not happening, Kirk. So maybe it is his mind. Maybe he's telling the truth. Maybe he's just all twisted up right now trying to say the right thing. That's what I think it is. Honey, I didn't mean to be at that club. The boys made me go. And I picked a chair in the back, but they said I got to go up front. And then I didn't take enough money. I didn't know we were going to do this. So they just gave me 100 ones. None of it's my fault. That's basically what's happening here. Kirk, come on, man. Just, I'll say it. Have some dignity.
Have some dignity. Yeah.
Go cuddle a dog and hit the reset. And
it's okay. It's okay to do that. I just don't think, I don't think it was well thought out. This plan was well thought out to now attack the partner. And look, here's the thing. There's going to be people in the comments section here of this Fitz that are going to say, no, that's not what he meant. That's not what he was talking about. He wasn't attacking those SEC schools. He was just saying if they wanted ratings, it was about the biggest brands. Stop lying to yourself. That's exactly what he was doing. He was absolutely telling you how he felt, is that, no, we don't want these little, if we want these little bitty schools, because he's trying to get out of the hole that he dug himself in. And all he did was throw dirt on himself and his SEC partners. That's all he did. Okay. So yes, he absolutely was bad mouthing them. I mean, otherwise, why does he call them little small? A team that has won 2 national championships in the last 10 years or whatever it is at Clemson, literally calling them out by name and saying little small Southern schools. Incredible.
Do you think he's talking about Miami also? I mean, I'm trying to, if it's not SEC, I'm trying to wrap my mind. Look, Miami is a small Southern school, let's be honest, but not its fan base.
Correct.
When they're going, they're like Colorado. I mean, we're seeing the same thing happen with the Buffaloes.
Correct.
They're kind of a national flavor right now. And that's cool. That's great for the Big 12. But yeah, none of this adds up. Look, we just need to iron out how we're getting to the 12 schools that are going to be in, what's fair and equitable and an even table. I mean, I don't know if you've seen this, but a Big 12 researcher, and I apologize to him because I'm totally spacing off his name. He's a BYU guy, has dug into the ESPN rankings, their power rankings, whatever it is, and basically found that there's a lid on the Big 12. That after everything that went on, with all the success the Big 12 had, nobody moved up in their rankings.
Correct.
So this is the kind of stuff we need to iron out. What's that about? Because I always say this, well, it's a computer. Someone puts in the code.
Correct.
Someone puts in the variables. Someone decides what is going on. Without seeing that code, having someone, well, I could see it and I had no idea. Without someone truly examining that, we don't know what the intent of this computer ranking is. So ESPN's going to ESPN. And this just goes back to what I've been saying. ESPN is losing its power. The power is being spread out into many other areas. We're now beginning to realize, and granted it's Fox, that these shows we want to watch during the day are just a soap opera. It's all it is, soap opera. And Fox has grown in importance to college football over the last 5-10 years. There's no doubt. And we need more. We need ESPN watered down as much as possible. They simply hold too much strength in the college space. And their only care, Big B, is what's best for ESPN, not what's best for the sports.
Correct.
Period.
100%. That's exactly what it is. They care about themselves, their bottom line, and all the other sports be damned. The sport be damned. And you saw that this year to an extent with the college football playoff selection. It's like the problem that the selection committee had, and we can end it on this, we all know, is that they wanted another SEC team in, but they just couldn't. They knew it would all be a farce if they put a 3-loss team in when they hadn't deserved it. They wanted to do it, but they couldn't. They are so mad, and maybe this is part of it. They're so mad at the SEC right now for having these teams lose 3 football games. They are so mad that they've turned on them. And that's it. And in a nutshell, now they're just small little Southern schools losing all these football games. You're not really any good. Nobody wants to watch you anyway. Can't beat Vanderbilt. Can't beat a bad Oklahoma team, Nobody wants you. Can't beat Kentucky. No, you're just a little small Southern school. It's unbelievable what's going on there. Hopefully they can get their act together. Hopefully they can, because it's absolutely ridiculous, man. So I appreciate everybody watching. Thank you guys. Again, as always, get in that comment section. Let us know exactly what you're thinking, how you're feeling. Remember to like, follow, subscribe. We appreciate you guys, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you for watching the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. This has been a Spirit Street production.